Sophie here with another Sims 4 PS4 video. Today I'm going to be building a community arts slash recycling kind of center place. I've only just recently got the eco pack and I've started exploring it and came across the community lot type, so I wanted to give that a try and see how that worked. So they have three different purposes, I think, that you can like customize and choose exactly what kind of space it will be. So I decided to make it an arts center, just because I know I have a sim that I'm trying to make a freelance crafter, so I kind of built this space specifically for that sim, but it comes out in a really neat way. So before I started building the actual lot, I actually plotted it out on a whiteboard, which is something my friend does and suggested, and it worked really well. And I'd actually started building it before what you see here, on the opposite side of the lot, but when I was putting in a gate for the other side, there was some kind of bug happening where it kept kind of disappearing part of the gate, which was really odd. So I just moved it over to the other side and had the building on the left and the garden on the right. I've gone with a geometric shape because it matches the rest of the neighborhood that I'm building around it. They're all very similar styles with this kind of geometric shapes, large windows, the same kind of wood and grey colour scheme as well. I've started calling this kind of build like an eco-modern design look. I think some people call it like architectural or new architecture, I'm not sure, but as you can see, I'm putting in a lot of big windows because I wanted the space to feel very bright, open, and friendly to match the idea of having this community lot where everybody comes together. So I tried to add in a glass window on the top, but you'll see as I go along that it kept causing me some issues. I did manage to fix it in the end, but that comes a bit later. So I designed the space to be open plan just because it matches the idea of the community lot style, I think. But I started in the back with the kids corner. I wanted it to be a space that all Sims could come, including children, families, that kind of thing. And I love some of the items that you get with the eco pack, including the doll's house made of cardboard. I think that's a really fun idea that they've brought to it. The whole concept I had around designing this lot was that potentially it was partly made by the community itself that it's within. So pretty much every piece of furniture that you see, maybe aside from the toilets, is supposed to look sort of upcycled and recycled. So the sinks and the doll's house, for example, are really good examples of that, where they look like upcycled items already. I think the only thing that ends up looking like out of place in this build is the bits collector item that you saw me put in. It looks very futuristic, especially when they use it, but it is basically needed for the crafting trait that they have now. So then outside I wanted a garden space on the right hand side, which would be partly sort of a communal space to just sit and hang out, and then partly also matching the kind of art center style, have like a garden space that you could plant things and use it as like an allotment kind of place for the community. So I literally went through hell with this roof. It just kept breaking itself, and in the end I had to try and make a new style of roof. So it doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to, but I think it still works for the purpose of it, and at least it still has the glass roof that I wanted, which kind of lightens the space up a lot. So I put in all these workbenches and different kind of skill sets that Sims could use. So there's a candle making station, a woodworking bench, and a little bit later I think I put in a flower arranging stand as well. I decided to put them like this with dividers between them because with the amount of space I wanted there to be enough items in the room without there having this massive amount of space in the middle, which is often what you would do if you just put the items on the walls themselves. So just by putting them opposite each other and adding these dividers in, it gave the space a lot of purpose and a lot of activities that I could put into the room, and just using dividers instead of like a brick wall or whatever just made it feel a bit more communal, like you could kind of hang out and talk to someone on the opposite side if you wanted while you did your own thing. For the colour scheme, I chose a very muted and natural colour scheme of a very kind of light mint blue and a sage green as well. I chose those mostly because they matched the benches that I'd put in for the kids' arts and crafts area, and they also just feel very nice and bright for the space as well. So after I went through and just did some more colour changes to match the space, I added in a painting corner, and I spent a really long time looking for this one item that's definitely in the pack somewhere, which I think is called like Still Country Life, and it's a whole setup of things that you're supposed to be sort of painting and drawing. So because I couldn't find that, I just decided to make my own using like a bar table and one of the plants and book. It looks like plants and books piled together. I think it's from the movie Hangouts pack. So I used those instead as the center point for what they could paint. I also added in a bookcase that went into the children's corner, but it's essentially for all of them. I only chose the kids corner because it was a nice area to put it in, and I really like the design of that bookcase. It looks very cute. I then added in the flower arranging table as like the final activity inside, and then started to make a communal kind of seating area. It doesn't hold a lot of people, but I think it's just, I really like these chairs. I don't use them often in builds, just because they have a very specific upcycled design, and I typically build houses with more quote unquote normal looking furniture. After adding in some lights, I moved on to doing the bathroom as well. I went with the same sort of colour scheme that to match the other areas of the space, so the same kind of blue and green, which also matches the doors and the sinks that I chose for the space as well. I also basically added succulent plants to almost every area of the space, to match the garden outside as well, and bring the kind of natural inside, just to make it feel that more communal and kind of eco-friendly centric. To add on to that, I also decided to add a sort of little garden space on top of the building, which it seems really impractical and strange, but I chose like succulent kind of hot weather plants and the sand to make it look like it's all connected to the garden as well. I then moved on to the garden and the gardening space itself, which I found the most difficult to plot out. I wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted the planters to go and what would look best and be the most user-friendly experience as well. I also wanted the space underneath the gazebo to be like a seating area or a kind of picnic table area, so I didn't want to block that off. So this layout with them all lined up left so much space in the middle, which is very similar to how I thought about doing the inside, where if you put everything on the outsides, then you get a lot of dead space in the middle. So I went against that and moved them into this square formation instead, which works a lot better. It creates a good flow and kind of makes it all very centralized, and added in these other planters next to the ones you can use, because they bring a lot of color and life to it, and they also match the birdhouse and the trees that I choose to use later on in the video as well. So actually on my Twitch stream that I was building this on, I asked everyone, because I wasn't really sure exactly what to do with the back of the garden space. So I asked them what I should do with the space, and someone came up with the idea of creating it as a barbecue, which kind of fits into the idea originally that I had of it being a picnic space. So I added in a second bench and a barbecue station, which I know a lot of Sims end up using often all the time anyway. Like whenever you put a barbecue in, for some reason it's the first thing that they do when they move into a lot is go to the barbecue and make sausages. I then added in the pathway textures as well, which were to connect all three spaces, so the inside, the recycling bins, and the garden space. I know that Sims don't typically stick to the pathways that you paint out unless you have a fence around them. So I wanted to then make the center space its own sort of garden to, one, add a bit of color, and to bring in some more nature to it, but also to close off that area so that it became like a feature and that Sims would have to walk around it as well. At first I thought that maybe I would add in a fountain to the middle space instead of a garden, but on thinking about it I just realized that maybe a fountain looked a little bit too grand and wouldn't really fit the idea of the space as a very natural recycling focused community lot. It just felt a bit too much, so instead I just went through and added in a garden space with a lot of plants instead. I filled up a lot of dead space in the end with a lot of different plants, so I chose those trees with the painted boxes that also matched the birdhouse and the planters that I'd added into the gardening space, which kind of tied it all in together and also had that upcycle look as well. So for the garden space, I thought I'd make it a geometric shape to match the rest of the build as well. And it would also allow me to cut off that space with fences. Like I said, Sims will only stick to pathways that actually have anything blocking them. So I used the fence to do that, to cordon off this area. And I think it fits with the shape of the rest of the build as well. I don't know if I used too many flowers in the end. Like, it's a lot of colour, which kind of works in relation to the rainbow painted boxes around, but also maybe doesn't fit the inside of the center itself. But I don't know, I think it's quite nice, and it brings a lot of color to the space. I think that's one thing I've noticed that I do when I'm building. Gardens are always the most tricky part for me. I think I've said before that a lot of open space kind of freaks me out and I don't really know what to do with it. So cordoning off garden areas really helps me, and I find it easier to do organized and kind of a lot of symmetry in spaces as well. I'm not really used to doing a very natural, free-flowing, kind of wild garden style, which I think is more English style of gardening. But I don't know, I think for a geometric shaped lot like this one kind of works a lot better. I then, as I always do, went into night mode to do a light check, which is what I think I'm going to call it from now on, is a light check, which is just where I have a look around and see what needs some lights, particularly outside. And again, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted for the outside lights, but the Twitch stream really helped me a lot to pick. A lot of people liked the lanterns that I'd put in and were suggesting more sort of fairy lights or string lights for the outside. So the gazebo is what I worked on next. So this little hack is using the string lights from the, I think it's a holiday pack, and basically when you have a space you want to put them in that you can't put them in because there's no wall there, all I do is just add a wall in and then put the lights on both sides of the wall in the exact same space, and then when you remove the wall it looks like they're hanging from whatever structure is in place. So I do it a lot with when putting in like beams across the ceiling as well, which I've done in a wedding video too. But because those lights aren't actually lights, they don't really show, they don't have the glow that other lighting fixtures have, so I had to add in some more lights. So I chose the same floral lanterns that I'd put in earlier, some street lights, and then just a couple of wall lights for the recycling areas where you couldn't really see anything. Then I just changed some of the settings, which I always forget to do, but I like doing in the end, of choosing all the kind of lot traits, and I chose ones that would fit to making it a more creative space and a really great place for Sims to go and do those kinds of things. So then on to the reveal. I was very happy in the end with the build itself. I think that I really like the geometric style and the amount of glass and light that comes into it. I didn't expect it to be such a popular lot, but when I went into the play mode there was so many Sims that showed up, which really makes me think that I might do more of these kinds of community lots across my neighborhoods in the future, and style them like I have here to the surrounding neighborhood, to make it fit in with where they are placed. I really like the way that this community lot idea functions, and just how kind of free-flowing it is in the way I've built it and the calming atmosphere it has. I like how many Sims show up. It feels like a really great addition to the playthrough. And I really love the kids space. I think it's a very calming and natural space, which is different to a lot of kids play areas that I would probably build. I'm also just quite pleased with how repurposed everything looks, as if the community itself has kind of added to and brought this place together to create this space for themselves. So thank you very much for tuning in and watching this build. I have many more on my channel to check out, and I also have my Twitch channel linked below, so if you want to see the builds as they happen live, then you can tune into that. And I always then edit and post them up here on YouTube as well. And if you want to download this lot or any other lot that I build, I also have a link to that down below so that you can go find them on the Sims community and download them for yourself. So thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.